Hello, thank you for joining us for our seminar, Maximizing Your Pension. My name is Chris Fajola. I am one of GIBA's financial advisors. I've been with GIBA for a little over 17 years, in the industry for a little over 23 years. My role at GIBA is to help our members with comprehensive financial planning. For those of you who are not familiar with GIBA, we are a not-for-profit membership association created by NSA employees in 1957. We provide supplemental benefits not offered by the federal government and the intel community. So we've grown to offer a variety of insurance benefits and discounts and financial and retirement planning services to active and retired federal employees, military personnel, and sponsored family members beyond the DoD. Today, we serve about 16,000 members, and we're governed by a volunteer board of federal employees who provide oversight and stewardship on behalf of our members. Membership is free upon enrollment in any plan or service. All of our financial advisors are credentialed in federal benefits. So when you look at a financial plan, there's many components that go into making a plan. Today, we're going to focus on your pensions and how do you maximize your pension. Today's seminar topics are going to include, again, maximizing your government-sponsored benefits. They include the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance Program, or FEGLI, the newer pension system, FERS, or the Federal Employee Retirement System, the old pension system, the CSRS, and we're going to decide on whether to choose a survivor benefit or not, and are there any other options available. We're going to briefly go over TSP because that is a third leg of your pension. We're also going to go over some various legacy planning strategies, and that's how do you pass on wealth to your heirs in the most tax efficient manner. We're going to offer some investing comments as it pertains in today's market environment. And then very briefly touch on some of the recent retirement offerings most of you or some of you may have received over the last few weeks or so. Let's start off with life expectancy because, when we design a financial plan, it's really dependent on life expectancy. The older you are, the older we plan for, the longer we plan, for the plan to go and make all the resources last, the more conservative it will be. Let's take a look at some of these stats. For males that are age 65, there's a 50% chance of living beyond age 86, a 25% chance of living beyond 93. Females, that percentage goes up, or the age goes up. 50% chance of living past age 88, or a 25% chance of living beyond 96. And then you have couples age 65, a 50% chance of living beyond 93, or a 25% chance of living beyond 98. So why is retirement planning important? Okay. On average, women live longer than men. There's a 20% chance that women will outlive their husband by 15 years and 45% chance that women will outlive their husband by 5 years. Outliving your assets it's a real reality. Back in 1935, the life expectancy was age 65. Decisions made before retirement will affect you in your golden years. So we always say plan for a period of time, not for a point of time. Just because you're submitting your retirement paperwork doesn't mean you should pull everything into cash. Again, you could be in retirement longer than your employment years. All right, let's take a brief overlook of FEGLI, the Federal Group Life Insurance Program. This is the group life insurance that most of you have available to you. There are various options involved with FEGLI. It starts with your basic coverage. That's going to include your salary rounded up to the next even thousand plus an extra 2,000. You have option A, that's going to be 10,000. That's just a base amount. Option B is going to be multiples of your salary And then you have option C that provides coverage to your spouse and dependents. You can take this coverage into retirement. It does get very costly though. And if you go to the OPM website, you can do a calculation of what that would look like on a reduction schedule. Our advisors recommend, depending on your situation, to keep basic in retirement, but choose the highest reduction, the 75% reduction. Eventually, that coverage will become free after age 65. So it's a small death benefit. Could be anywhere from between like 30 to 45,000, but it could be well used for possibly for funeral expenses and what have you. The various options to continue FEGLI, the basic, yes. Again, you can find the premium chart on the OPM website. You can cancel it after you choose that option. You cannot take option A. You have option B, the multiples. You can take it in retirement, and you can cancel it. Option C, you can as well. But again, during your retirement years, it does get very costly. If there is a need for life insurance during that time period, you do want to look at other options. Let's briefly discuss just life insurance in general. This is a component of a comprehensive financial plan. Life insurance is dependent on gender, age, and health. So, typically women are less expensive. The younger you are, the less expensive. The healthier you are, it's the less expensive the premiums can be. Here's a chart that kind of displays how kind of out of control the FEGLI premiums can get in your older years. As you can see with the yellow, that's the annual premiums for FEGLI if you're looking at a $302,000 benefit. The orange or the brownish line there, the level, that's going to be a 20-year level term policy with an insurance carrier on the outside, independent coverage. As you can see, an age 60-year-old locked in a 20-year premium for $4,562. That premium remains level for the 20 years. That never goes up. The green there is for females. Of course, premiums are going to be lower. But what we're trying to display here is if you truly need coverage well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, the most cost-effective way to do it is to do it on your own with individual life insurance instead of depending on the group plan. All right, let's kind of get into the meat of the seminar here, pension maximization. All right, we get conditioned to believe that we must opt into every federal benefit offered to us. When you have that retirement application, you feel like every box needs to be checked. But every employee and family is going to be different. It's dependent on age, your health, how many dependents you have, the wealth. Did you take advantage of the TSP matching? Did you max it out? Did you invest the right way? The best retirement option, what is the best retirement options for your family? Everybody's going to be different. Let's talk a little bit about the survivor benefit. It's a guarantee. It's predetermined portion of your pension benefit that you're going to leave to your surviving spouse. There's two options, either 50% or 25% for FERS employees, but it's going to reduce your pension by at least 10% or 5%. So you're basically paying a predetermined amount to protect your spouse financially. The green box there could be all the components that goes to protect the spouse. You have a survivor benefit. You have maybe possibly a couple multiples of FEGLI. You have the basic of FEGLI. Do you do the no reduction of FEGLI? Do you choose the lower survivor amount? Or could you maybe alternatively do a couple different life insurance plans on top of each other to be equivalent to what would pay out on, as far as the survivor benefits or the other FEGLI coverage? When you talk about all your benefits, they call it the three-legged stool. You have your pension, your TSP, Social Security. We're going to touch on the pensions right now. There's a couple different ones. Most of you fall under the first option here on the FERS, or Federal Employee Retirement System. That's available to employees hired after December 31st, 1983. And then we have the older system, the Civil Service Retirement System, that's available to employees hired before 1984 who or did not move to FERS. And then we have the CSRS offset. We don't see that too often, but that's available to employees who were employees prior to 1984 and then left federal government and then returned. So it's kind of like a component of Social Security and CSRS offset. We're going to briefly kind of go through the CSRS. There's a lot of information to cover here. And again, I want to remind you, any questions at all, please place those in the chat section of the webinar. We will either get to those towards the end, or we will reach out to you individually and answer those questions. So if you have any questions at all, please place those in the chat section so we can get those answered for you. All right, let's go through the various types of the pension systems. That first one, FERS, the pension plan involves, it's going to be 1 to 1.5% of your high 3 salary for each year of service. Social Security, you're going to be eligible for that. And then you are eligible for the thrift savings plan. And it also includes an automatic and matching contributions. There's another component that involves the older plans called the Voluntary Contribution Plan. FERS employees are not going to be eligible for that. The CSRS is eligible for the Voluntary Contribution Plan. The Voluntary Contribution Plan plays a key component when it comes to a Roth conversion. So if you are a CSRS or CSRS offset, please get a hold of us and maybe discuss this option for you. If you are still working, you definitely want to take available of this option to do a Roth conversion. All right, so a little bit more information about the Federal Employees Retirement System. It involves the matching of the thrift savings plan. The Social Security is also included. The FERS annuity calculation, if you have more than 20 years of service and are at least age 62 or older, it's going to be 1.1% multiplied by the years of service. All other employees, it's going to be 1% multiplied by the years of service. And then for those FSPS annuity calculation, for the SFPS employees, it's going to be 1.7% for the first 20 years and then 1% thereafter. An unreduced retirement at the age of 50 with 20 years. And then there's 3 different survivor options to choose from, either a 50%, a 25%, or just 0. Here's an example of the annuity calculation for the FERS folks. It's the average high 3 paid salary years multiplied by the cumulative percentage, and that will give you your unreduced FERS annuity per year. And again, we touched on if you're at least 62 with 5 years of service, it's going to be 1% for every years of service. If you're at least 62 with 20 years of service, it's going to be 1.1. So the important thing to take from this is, if you're in that position where you're, let's say 61 with 30 years of service, and you meet with us, we're going to tell you to work 1 more year. You know, the 10% extra with the pension is just going to help your plan that much more if it's just 1 more year. Now, if you've had it and you're just done, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. But we're always going to recommend that you try to meet that 62 with 20 years of service so you can increase that pension at least by that 10%. Here's an example of the FERS annuity. We have an employee with 30 years of service, retiring at age 62. They're making $100,000 a year. 1.1% multiplied by 30 gives you 33%, and then multiply that 33% by the high 3, 100,000. So it's a pretty easy calculation. Then you have a special supplement for FERS employees. And what this is to take the place of the age 62 Social Security. So basically, it's a supplement that you can take for a few years until you're eligible for Social Security at age 62. It will stop at age 62. eligibility, minimum retirement age, retirees with at least 30 years of service, or voluntary retirees age 60 with at least 20 years of service. The calculation, pretty easy. You look up to see what your age 62 Social Security benefit is going to be. Then you take your total years of FERS service divided by 40, and then you multiply the two, and that will give you your FERS supplement. Here's an example. We have Jane Smith, FERS employee, retiring at 30 years of credible service. Her MRA is 57. Her age 62 Social Security benefit is going to be $1,200 a month. So you take the 30 years credible service, divided by 40, multiply it by the age 62 of Social Security, $1,200, and you get $900 per month. That's going to be your supplement. So between the ages of 57 to 62, Jane will receive $900 a month in FERS supplemental income. All right, now the various survivor options you have. The first one, 50%. You're going to provide 50% to your surviving benefit, and it's going to reduce your pension by 10%. Option 2, you provide 25% of your unreduced pension, and it's going to reduce it by 5%. Or option 3, you just don't leave anything, 0. Okay. Just be careful. We're going to touch on this here in a minute. If you have the need to pass on your federal health benefits to your spouse, you have to choose one of the survivor options. Okay. So here's an example. We have Sarah Williams, has an unreduced annuity of $50,000, would like to leave a maximum of 50% to her husband. 50% of 50,000, 25,000. The cost is 10%. The pension was 50,000, 10% of 50,000, so the cost is 5,000. So it's costing Sarah $5,000 in pension per year to provide a guaranteed income for the spouse of 25,000. All right, this is the section we're going to kind of breeze through a little bit just to save us on some time. Again, if you are still employed as a CSRS or CSRS offset, please get a hold of us so we can kind of go through some of these various options. Calculation. All of you will get a copy of the slide deck, so you'll have that. But please, enter your questions into the chat section, and we'll definitely get a hold of you. The CSRS survivor benefits a little bit more broad, as far as what's available. A lot more options, basically. Here's an example of a survivor benefit. I'm sure it doesn't pertain to most of you. All right, let's take a look at what a survivor benefit, how is it defined? In exchange for a fixed reduction in your benefit, the fund will pay a portion of your pension to your surviving spouse. You are paying a predetermined amount to protect your spouse financially. There's important considerations when you choose the survivor option. Do you understand the concept of the CSRS or FERS survivor benefit? It's simply just life insurance. I mean, you're reducing your pension for the federal government to provide a source of income to a spouse. You can do that artificially through other sources. Know your options. Are you taking advantage of the federal health care benefits in retirement? If you are, just know you have to choose one of the survivor options to pass that on to your spouse. And then what's the most efficient way to transfer wealth to your heirs, right? And is that through the survivor benefit? Then, of course, again, we talked about that voluntary contribution account for those CSRS employees. All right, so let's take a look at some different scenarios with the survivor benefit. We have the first scenario where the employee passes away a long time before the spouse. All right, the total payout that the surviving spouse is going to get from the federal government is large. If they still have 20 to 30 years left to live, that's 20 to 30 years worth of a survivor benefit they're going to get. So the payout is huge. The second scenario, the spouse passes away before the employee. All right, so there's no payout. The survivor's spouse or the spouse passed away before the employee, so they never got the chance to pass on those survivor benefits. The one key thing here, though, is you can go back to your unreduced annuity. And let's say there's some time that goes by before you tell OPM of your spouse's passing, and let's say it's a year or whatever, they will retroactive go back and pay back that unreduced difference of the pension. So just know that you can go back to the unreduced amount. And again, that's a time where you want to go back to your financial advisor, update the financial plan, because that income is going to increase. And then you have the third scenario: spouse and employee pass away within a short period of time of one another. And it is pretty crazy. This does happen quite often. And if it does, there's going to be a minimal payout, okay, for the spouse that's receiving that survivor option. Now let's take a look when we call it alternative ways of doing it, right? So think outside the box, don't just check the box on the retirement application. Let's look at all the various strategies. In the first scenario, employee passes away long time before the spouse. The total payout, huge, large. The spouse uses some of that, of the lump sum to create an income stream. They can reinvest it. They can do whatever they want. It's a lump sum payout. They're not just tied to that monthly benefit. The chance of payout, 100%. The spouse passes away before the employee. So scenario number 2, large. Why? Because the employee can change the primary beneficiaries to the family members or friends or charities. Someone's going to get paid out if the employee chooses to keep that life insurance in play. Chance of payout, 100%. Spouse and employee pass away within a short period of time of one another. Large. Okay, again, it's a lump sum. It's tax-free. You can change the beneficiaries whoever you want. Or let's say you forget to change the primary beneficiary, the contingent beneficiaries will receive that death benefit. The survivor option just doesn't have that option where you can pass it on to family or charities or what have you. So if you're in good health, this is an option you definitely want to take a look at. Here's an example of pension maximization. We have Tom, age 54. He's married. Spouse Sue, a little older, age 56. His desired retirement age is age 55. He's above average health. He's in the older pension system. His expected yearly pension is about $92,408. The reduction in the annuity for the survivor benefit, if you were to choose the maximum of 55%, is $8,971. So his pension is reduced by $8,971 per year to provide $50,824 to a surviving spouse. The goal: Tom wants to protect the wife financially in the event of his death. So the result, we know the reduction in the annuity, the cost of the survivor benefit is about $89.71 a year. What's an alternative that Tom can do? This is where we're using the individual life insurance as an alternative. And in this strategy, we're stacking 2 different policies on top of each other. We have a level term policy for 30 years at $805,000. Then we have a guaranteed universal life insurance policy. It's guaranteed. The premiums are never going to go up. Death benefit's never going to go down. And it's guaranteed out to Tom's 100th birthday. Okay, so we have a total coverage of $1,105,000. The total cost of that type of plan, or both plans, $8,295 a year. So you can see we saved a little bit of money with the premiums compared to the reduction of the pension. But the goal is really not. There could be a cost effective there, but it's not really there to, what's the cheaper route to go. That's one aspect of it, I guess. But the other aspect I think is the most important is you have options for that death benefit going forward, just like we saw in the slides before. So here's a comparison. So let's say a survivor at age 65, they get the lump sum death benefit, and we can create a fixed source of income of $68,788. If you had the survivor benefit, it would have been $59,497 plus cost of living adjustments. Now let's look at the survivor at age 75. So, the employee passes at age 75, the survivor's at age 75. The private insurance can provide $85,843 in fixed income. The reason why is because there's a shorter time period to provide that fixed source of income because they're now 10 years older. So it increases that fixed source of income. The survivor benefit, it increases as well, $72,528 plus cost of living. Then we go to the other variables. Can we pass it to non-spouses? With the life insurance, yes. Survivor benefit, no. Can the proceeds be split between heirs? Private life insurance, yes. Survivor benefit, no. Will a payout occur? We know for a fact it will. As long as they pass, they will. So yes. Will the survivor benefit? Maybe. But what happens if the spouse passes before the employee? A payout never happened, right? So one important note is the health benefits. And I alluded to this earlier. So while you're reviewing your survivor benefit options, it's important to note that in order for a spouse to maintain the federal health benefits, the spouse must be receiving a small survivor benefit. All right. So that what that means is if you're CSRS, at least that $1,980 per year, or the 25% option for the FERS employees. Really, I mean, it's a non-factor when it comes to if you have a couple that's 2 federal employees, or maybe you're considering health coverage somewhere else and you don't care about passing on those federal health care benefits, then it really doesn't come in play. But if you do need to pass that on, this is a very important feature. You need to at least have one of the survivor benefits. All right, let's talk about another leg of the stool, so to speak, for your benefits, TSP, Thrift Savings Plan. This is like the government's version of the 401k. Here's an illustration of the various investments you have available inside the TSP. We call this our financial pyramid, or investment pyramid. So at the top, you have your most riskiest options, but the more risk you take on, the higher the returns. All right. And at the bottom there are more of your less risky type of options. We have a 10-year range of the returns that your various options have provided. It is very important to have a diversified portfolio, not go 100% C or not 100% G. You do want to have a mixture. The more funds you have in a combination of a portfolio, the level of risk will decrease. And take a look at the 10-year average here. You have your G fund, 2.55, very, very low rate of return, but no risk involved there. The F fund, that's fairly low. What created that low return is probably over 2022, 2023, when the Federal Reserve was raising interest rates. Anytime rates go up, the performance of the F fund goes down. So I'm sure those 2 years worth of rate increases affected the overall average for that type of fund. The C fund is going to be your common stock fund. That's going to mirror the S&P 500. So your largest 500 U.S. domestic companies. 10-year average 13.74. The S fund, that's going to be small caps. So small U.S. companies, average 10.26. The I fund, international large cap, 5.89%. The L funds are great. These are, if you really want a hands-off approach with investing, but you want to stay well diversified, these L funds or life cycle funds will do it for you. You can pick the target date of when you retire, and that will automatically diversify you amongst the 5 different funds. Off to the left, the L income fund, that's for someone that's already retired or retiring now. So you can see the majority of the assets are within the G fund, the F fund. And then you have the L70. That's like the other end of the spectrum when it comes to risk. That's for someone much younger, retiring 2070. So as you can see with the funds, it's mostly the C, S, and I there, very, very little in the G and the F. But that will shift to be more conservative, almost like the one on the left, as you get closer and closer to the year 2070. All right, legacy planning. This is all about thinking about your heirs, someone other than yourself, okay? So what is the definition of legacy planning? It's the positioning of assets to efficiently transfer wealth to your heirs in a mindful way. Okay, or a more tax efficient way. Maximize, what's the purpose? Maximizing the wealth for your surviving family, maximizing charitable donations to religious organizations or schools, nonprofits, what have you. You want to take advantage of your attributes, so your health, your income, the tax bracket. So what's the best type of assets to leave your heirs? Rule of thumb, annuities and traditional IRAs don't transition well to beneficiaries. The reason why is because the interest inside of annuities are considered 100% taxable. The contributions aren't, but the interest is taxable. Traditional IRAs are 100% taxable. Okay, so they don't transition well to beneficiaries. Life insurance, on the other hand, and Roth IRAs, they do transition well. Life insurance, because it's a totally tax-free death benefit. Roth IRAs, same thing. So those do transition very well. All right, we're going to go through some comments as far as the various things going on right now in the market. You know, we're not very briefly, broad strokes of comments from us and our advisors. We do invite you to make a one-on-one appointment, either online, in person, over the phone, to discuss your current allocation. So let's go ahead and move on. We're gonna give you some words of wisdom from Warren Buffett, and then talk about the complications of timing the market and the importance of staying invested. So here's a quote from Warren Buffett: "To invest successfully over a lifetime does not require a stratospheric IQ, unusual business insights, or inside information. What's needed is a sound intellectual framework for making decisions and the ability to keep emotions from corroding that framework." That's why it's very important to have a financial plan. Stick to the plan. Have a withdrawal strategy in times like this. They always say, don't panic, sell, and that's because, again, we saw slides in the beginning of what that can do to your portfolios here. This chart here shows the value of staying invested. So if you were to initially invest 100,000, and let the gray area there right before 2010 is the financial crisis. So you have the three different investors: the one that moved to cash and never went back. You have the one that moved to cash for 1 year and then decided it was the right time to get back in, I guess. Then you have the buy and hold investor. If you weathered the storm and you were patient, you were rewarded. And you can see that with the upward trajectory of that blue line there. So very important, staying invested. There's so many days throughout the year during a bear market where there's up days. And if you're out of the market, you're missing out on those up days. This is what we're illustrating here. Staying invested, missing the best days. 25 years worth, the initial $1,000 investment, S&P 500 before fees. You could call this the C fund if you want. If you were to stay fully invested, at 25 years of 1,000 grew to 4,410. If you missed the best day of that, it would be 3,952. If you missed the 5 best days, and then the 10 best days and the 20 best days, and so on and so forth. I mean, look at missed 40 of the best days, $512 compared to 4,410. Again, we're just trying to drive home the importance of having a plan. Do not deviate from the plan. Have a withdrawal strategy if you're in retirement, or if you're approaching retirement. Decide on what is the right amount to pull from your investments. And if we're in times like this, have that safe, conservative portion of the portfolio to pull your income from, and let your other more riskier assets, CS&I or stocks, what have you, recover, because they will eventually. All right, we're going to briefly go over some of the various retirement offerings that some of you may have received over the last few weeks or so. We do invite you, again, put those questions in the chat section. We do invite you to have that one-on-one consultation to us. It doesn't cost you anything. Remember, we're all salaried advisors here at GIBA. So, our goal is to address any topics you want. If you want that financial checkup done, we can do that for you. Check on the allocation of your TSPs, whatever. But let's go ahead and go briefly through the various options that you've been offered. We have the deferred resignation, which some agencies have on the table currently. We have the Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, or VERA. We also have a reduction in force, or RIF, probationary employment layoffs, the separation of service, which would be non-VERA, postponed retirement, deferred retirement. So what was deferred resignation or retirement? It's an effort to downsize the federal government. The goal was to reduce it by 5 to 10%. That they'll either resign or retire. Now, from what we understand, some agencies have this on the table right now. The various deadlines, can be different, but from what we understand, the deadline is still September 30th. As far as it provides, not deadline, I shouldn't say it pays your pay and benefits up until September 30th. As far as the deadline to make a decision, that can vary. If you retire or resign early, there could be a reduction in your pension calculation. So just keep that in mind. Other workforce reduction methods, the Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, or VERA, this would be probably, I guess, the better option of all. The reduction in force, then you have it's elimination of agency or job function, elimination of a position, and probationary employment layoffs. All right, so when will you get your pension and when? A full retirement, which is going to be an unreduced pension and subsidized health benefits, is defined as minimum retirement age with at least 30 years of service, age 60 and 20 years of service, or age 62 and 5 years of service. So as long as you meet those requirements, you're going to get that full retirement. The considerations: there's a 5% reduction in benefit for each year you are below your full retirement age. And then, will you have access to health insurance, right? All right, so the benefits with VERA or early out, the requirements: age 50 with 20 years, any age with 25 years of service, cannot take another civilian federal job or salary, will be offset by that annuity. No reduction in the annuity for retirement age below 55. There are going to be some TSP limitations. VERA prior to age 55, you have access at age 59 and a half. If you accept VERA after age 55, you have immediate access to TSP. All right, you also have immediate coverage to the federal health care coverage in retirement, and immediate access to FEGLI coverage in retirement. So non-VERA, that we call postponed. Generally for FERS employees, they've reached MRA and have between 10 to 30 years of credible service. You may delay receiving pension benefits to avoid age reduction penalty of 5% a year. It allows for reinstatement of the federal health care benefits and or FEGLI upon receipt of the annuity. TSP is accessible penalty-free at separation of service. Cost of living adjustments start upon the receipt of the pension. All right. Now, when you talk about the federal health care benefits and the FEGLI, it requires enrollment of 5 years prior to separation. COBRA can also be used to bridge the gap, the insurance gap, for up to 18 months. That's where, it's for healthcare. If you have a gap of coverage, you can use COBRA to bridge it for at least 18 months. And you have deferred retirement. It's for FERS employees who leave federal service before the minimum retirement age with at least 5 years of credible service. You may receive a pension when you reach the appropriate age as dictated by the years of credible service. So age 60 with 20 years or age 62 with at least 5 years. There is no reinstatement of health or life insurance benefits. The TSP cannot be taken penalty-free until age 59 and a half. No survivor benefits for pensioners. And the cost of living adjustments does not start until age 62. Now, let me just say that, there are strategies if you do need to bridge that income gap and you're not eligible for normal penalty-free distributions from TSP, you can exercise a rule called 72T that the IRS says you can take equal and subsequent payments up until 59 and a half, and you can avoid that 10% IRS penalty for thrift savings plan or traditional IRAs. Again, if you request a one-on-one consultation with us, we can kind of go over some of those strategies. When comparing the deferred and postponed retirement, we have the chart below. Eligibility. So for deferred retirement, it's before MRA with at least 5 years of service. For postponed, it's going to be after MRA with 10 to 30 years of service. The pension reduction for deferred retirement, none. It cannot be taken early. Postponed retirement, none if you want, if you wait. The federal health care benefits for deferred, not going to be eligible. Postponed, you're eligible with the pension. For life insurance, the FEGLI, not eligible for deferred. For postponed, eligible with the pension. TSP access, deferred, not till 59 and a half. Postponed, at retirement. And then survivor benefits, available. Deferred, nope, not going to be available. So in that case, you're going to want to use the private life insurance to create that artificial survivor benefit. Postponed, it's optional. Again, you have that choice of that 50, 25, or nothing. And then cost of living adjustments for deferred doesn't start till age 62. For postponed, at the receipt of a pension. All right, so what's the impact? When you review all the options, you want to make sure, like as far as years of service and your age, what's the effect on the pension? Will you have health insurance available or life insurance available? What's the effect of TSP accessibility? What are you going to need a survivor benefit? Is one going to even be available, depending on the different options? And then the effect of COLA, the cost of living adjustments. At what age will those start? All right, so we're here to help you understand all your benefits. So you have access to great benefits, but do you understand all the little caveats about them? Can you complement the current benefits with other benefits to better fulfill your needs? GIBA does a lot more than just wealth management. We have a whole slew of group benefit programs, dental, vision, pet insurance, home and auto discounts, long-term care, professional liability. Please take advantage of us. Again, put all your various questions and requests in the chat section. We will get to you. And how can we help? Well, we have a staff of experts. The consultations are free. We're all salaried here. No obligation, right? All the advisors are licensed. All of us hold what's called a chartered federal employees benefit consultant designation. And what that means is we do the year in, year out study, for all your benefits. So we, stay up to date on those, and we can use that knowledge with traditional comprehensive financial planning to create a plan designed specifically around your federal benefits. Long-term care experts. And again, competitive group pricing from member discounts, providers, partners that receive the highest financial ratings. Here's our contact information. We are kind of winding down. I am going to take a look here at some of the questions. Maybe we can get to some of those before we'll have to take off here. But please, take advantage of what we can offer you. Here's our contact information, our website. Again, place your questions in that chat section, and we're going to get to you as soon as we can. So let's take a look. Bear with me here. All right, let's take a look at some of these. Thank you for holding on here for a second. I heard the supplement is going away. Um, everything's hearsay until it's in writing. We haven't heard much of that, but it could be available for some, not available for others. Uh, I believe it really depends on that, specific offer that you're going to have. Let's take a look at here. We need to elect a survivor benefit for health insurance benefit for spouse, right? Yep, we hit on that a couple different times. Very, very important. I would say not so important for those spouses that are dual federal employees, right? Or if you want to go and get your own health care coverage somewhere else. Let's see here. What if you have a living trust? Living trusts are great, great estate planning type documents or strategies. I would say a living trust is real important if you have if you have a lot of assets, let's say like rental properties, or let's say you have a lot of beneficiaries and you want to control the distribution of assets upon your death, or maybe you don't you want to kind of shield the assets from liability. That's when a living trust really comes in play. It's an estate planning type tool. We'd be glad to have a one-on-one conversation with you about that. Let's see. Given the current market downturn, would it be advisable to shift funds from stocks to more conservative investment option, considering you have 7 years until retirement? Guess what I would say to that is we got to be careful. Would I pull everything in the cash or G fund? No. If I have some in G fund, I'd probably say right now presents opportunity. I would say the most important thing is to get that financial plan done, take a look to see what retirement looks like, how much of a deficit there would be when you compare your financial goals compared to your resources that you have coming in, like your pension, Social Security, all your other investments. How much are you going to need to pull from TSP every year for that first maybe 2 to 3 years? And that will dictate what amount of assets we need in the more conservative bucket, right? I'm not one, and most of our advisor teams, we're not day traders. We're not looking to predict the market. We want to plan accordingly. We want to have a diversified portfolio. We want to have a withdrawal strategy. When the markets are down, we take our income from the conservative bucket. When the markets are going crazy and wild in like 2019 and 20 and 21, 23, 24, we're definitely taking our income from the stock bucket. So you want to have those various, various sources and let the market dictate what source you're going to take that income from. Again, I invite you to have a one-on-one consultation with us. Let's see. All right, does buy and hold for TSP mean that the individual should continue with the same contribution amount, or should they look at increasing their contributions in order to buy more during this market downturn? So buy and hold meaning don't panic sell, okay? Like be a long-term investor, right? And I've had some folks that were kind of nearing retirement where maybe they had a year or 2 years left, and maybe they're sitting at like a 60-40 type portfolio, 60% CS and I, 40% G and F. And I tell them, let's turn on your future contributions to CS and I and take advantage of the market downturn and start, um, purchasing all those shares at a much lower cost. So buy and hold, I mean, just for long term. That's what I mean with that. And if you can increase your contributions, definitely right now is the way to do that. And you don't want to be putting those contributions toward the G fund. You definitely want to be putting those towards the CSNI. Let's see. I would like to receive the consultation ASAP and a slide deck. We're getting that out to you. Please put your information in the in the chat section, and we're going to be reaching out to schedule that appointment. Okay. All right. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to end right there. We appreciate you staying on with us till the end. Again, please put your questions in that chat section, and we will be reaching out to you momentarily. You can also reach the GIBA office. You'll have the contact information in the slide deck, and we look forward to assisting you guys going forward. Thank you.